listening to respond and listening to understand. I think that that's so important because so many times we're so concerned about what our rebuttal is, what we're going to say to what somebody's thought is that they're saying, right? We're just constantly trying to formulate what we're going to say back to that. And I can speak personally. When I do that, I probably only get 60 to 70% of what that person is saying versus when I'm intentional about hearing the words that you say and really trying to understand. Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast with your host. I'm Zach Heyer.
And I'm Spencer Maxwell. And real quick, we just want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you tuning in for episode 1. Zach, we got lots of love on episode 1. We appreciate our following already.
We actually did. Yeah. It was really nice.
What a great feeling to have such a great backing by so many people.
Very much so.
Which is kind of inspired us on our episode today. We can get right into it. Our episode today, we're talking about the value of people and relationships. This is huge. Not just in the business realm, in life.
Oh, yeah, baby.
So, Zach, I guess another thing that we like to do is educate, inspire, and motivate through stories and experiences. So, let's get right into it. Relationships, people, they build your business.
1,000%. You can't do it without them.
Yeah. And something that I think is huge that might sometimes get a little bit looked over is the value of mentorship. Mentorship has been huge for me. It's been huge for you. And I kind of want to talk about that. Mentorship, what it means to me is, really, I've had a lot of more seasoned people in the business realm, faith realm, marriage realm, all that stuff that have just kind of poured into me. And I love learning from their mistakes, other people's mistakes, where they've succeeded, where they've failed. And sometimes I think our generation can really overlook the value of that.
And why do you think that is? I kind of have my opinion on why I think that is, but I was curious. What do you think the reason people of our generation kind of overlook that?
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm 26 going on 50 here, but could it be because you think they know everything?
Dude, that is literally exactly what ego.
Yeah.
Ego.
Quick ego check for you Blueprint listeners real quick.
Yeah. Going back to Horbozy, he talks a lot about the more that you know, the more that you realize you don't know.
Yeah.
And man, is that applicable, especially at our stage of life, but I feel like at all stages of life, there's constantly things that you can be learning and growing. And I think that when you take the approach of, I have it figured out, it just limits your upside. It just
you're automatically putting horse blinders on once you think you have everything figured out.
And you're putting a ceiling.
Yeah.
You're putting a ceiling on where you're at, right? Because you can, like we said, you can always learn more. There's always somebody higher up the totem pole, more successful, things of that sort that you can learn from. And it's something that we talked about last episode was the analogy of, what a dumb person makes a mistake.
Yep.
And continuously makes that mistake. A smart person will make a mistake and learn from it. A wise person will see somebody else make the mistake and avoid it altogether. And I think that ties into a little bit of mentorship, right? Especially for some of us young bulls that are 26 years old. I think mentors can really help us in that. We're in the stages, Spencer and I, we're building our businesses, right? So there is so much that we haven't encountered, and mentors will be able to pour in and say, hey, you know, once you get to this stage, you got to look out for this and you need to avoid this situation or this pitfall, right? And going to the wise person that can learn from their mistakes and avoid them in our business on the come up. And then hopefully, once we're in their position, we can be that for guys that are in our position right now.
Yeah. And it comes full circle. It's like, storytelling and experience here. So like you talked about how you went to, you have your MBA, you went to college, all that stuff. So I went to high school and I immediately started working. And so I helped manage a country club for 4 years. And so I say I went to Country Club University, and so that was kind of my schooling for 4 years. And it was strictly just like learning from these people for 4 years about where they messed up, which was huge for me. And now I see it come full circle. I'm avoiding those mistakes, and then I'm also helping others avoid those mistakes and really just kind of grow with these life lessons that these CEOs, businessmen have poured into me. Really, like that was phenomenal for me because I'm learning directly from the source. You talk about like, going to get your MBA and those professors not really like, hey, where's your business that you're running? I'm learning from the direct source. And that, like we talk about with mentors, like we have here as a talking point, is it excels. It basically, speeds up the process. Mentorship does. You want to write a good business plan, go seek out mentorship. You'll get better that way. Other stuff, you could get a lot better at. So it really speeds up the process, because once again, as Hormozy likes to talk about, you want to pay that ignorance tax very young.
Oh, yeah.
Because the price of ignorance that bill can be pretty large later on in life when you're trying to do big things. So pay the ignorance tax, seek wisdom early. But that doesn't happen if you are not willing to listen. Right?
Absolutely. And that was exactly what I was
going to get into. We're so similar. I can just see it on your face.
Yeah, just feel it, right? Yeah.
I felt it.
I was thinking that of just learning to listen.
Yeah.
Both of us, like we're outgoing individuals, right? So, but God gave us one mouth and two ears for a reason. And sometimes we just need to shut up and listen. And I think that that's a skill that a lot of people don't have. And what were we just talking about before we hopped on the podcast, right? Of like listening to respond and listening to understand. I think that that's so important because so many times we're so concerned about what our rebuttal is, what we're going to say to what somebody's thought is that they're saying, right? We're just constantly trying to formulate what we're going to say back to that. And I can speak personally. When I do that, I probably only get 60 to 70% of what that person is saying versus when I'm intentional about hearing the words that you say and really trying to understand. Yeah. I think that that's so important. That just gets into learning to listen. And that plays into the mentorship piece because that's building that skill, right? Yeah. You're having to listen to somebody that's been there, done that. You don't know all the ins and outs. So you need to seek their wisdom, their advice, and just listen.
Yeah. And that's huge. That was great. I love the way you put that. And it takes a lot of emotional maturity to get there. Because, in your younger years, you're always like, you're listening and then you come back, will I. And then you like kind of tell about yourself. It's learning to listen, and kind of taking a step back and being selfless and just trying to listen to those people without just trying to compare all the time or throw your 2 cents in. It's just listening to the wisdom and opening yourself up to allow that wisdom to be poured into you. It takes a lot of emotional maturity. I'm not going to lie. It took me a long time to develop that skill. But I'm telling you, once you are able to open up and learn to listen, not just to respond, I think that will, like we always say, that will speed up the process and pay that ignorance tax early on. So that is, would we say that's probably the biggest part about mentorship is number one, being mentored is learning to listen?
I mean, there's so many valuable things from it, but that's got to be towards the top of the list. I think the avoiding pitfalls is very, very important. But man, this is like 1A, 1B, in my opinion. Because and not to take this a little bit on a tangent, but I feel like the people that we ultimately want to become is just a compilation of skill sets. I truly believe that a lot of the characteristics that we possess or don't possess or desire to possess are just skills that can be learned. I think that people have more of a natural proclivity towards some things. Like for us, we're outgoing. I'd say that we have more of a proclivity towards like sales and things of that sort. But I think that it's skills, man. And that's the encouraging thing of, I think that you can break it down of, into, how do I want to say this? Of just like aiming at your target and then and kind of going back to our last episode of reverse engineering some of those things of, hey, I want to be good at sales. That's something that I want to do. Let me first start with how do I become responsive? How am I good at being responsive? When somebody says X, how do I reframe to get their mindset shifted to Y? And I think a lot of these things happen with repetition, right? So that's one of the beautiful things about the people that we ultimately want to become and the skill sets that we ultimately want to possess. I think are simply just skills that we can over time learn.
Business owners, do you know the value of creating a strong brand and realize social media is one of the best ways to do it, but don't have the time to stay consistent or know where to start? Do you need a modern website or an eye-catching logo? You only get one first impression and you've got to make it count. No matter if you're looking for a website, a logo package, or if you need a professional to craft and implement a custom social media strategy to create a recognizable brand and drive sales, the Z&T agency has got you covered. Odds are you've probably been thinking about these things to some degree, but didn't know a solution. Or maybe this is all new to you and you're interested in hearing more. Either way, we'd love to talk to you. Reach out to zach.hire@theztagency.com to book your consultation call today.
Yeah. And so like finding a good mentor also, it shouldn't really be forced.
Mm-mm.
Like, I don't think any of the mentors that we've had, we've, just sought them out and like messaged them.
It's pretty natural.
It's organic. And that is like, I think 63% of people find their mentors organically was the number that we read.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, take a look around you, who's in your same field, who's in the same church, who's in a similar type friend group that's older than you are, that you can go seek wisdom from that person. But, Zach, you talk about this a lot. So like when it comes to seeking mentorship, is a mentor going to really want to do anything if you're not really into it or not bringing anything to the table?
You got to provide them value.
Yeah. You have to provide some sort of value, not just like monetary value, but, mentors get better as well as they mentor others,
Absolutely.
So they're also growing. So you're bringing some value there. But, just I would say too, I want to encourage here, just seek mentorship and don't be scared to ask. Take action.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask. And another thing that I want to hit on is I feel like people, when they hear the word mentor, they think of it has to be a physical person, right? Mm-hmm. I think that mentorship can take form in different ways. So I think, like, for example, we talk about him all the time, but Alex Hormozy has been a mentor to me. He has no clue that I even exist on this planet, right? But through, content nowadays, through books, through different media sources, we can get insights to some of these top businessmen and women and entrepreneurs and they can be mentors to us, right? It doesn't have to be the guy next door. It can be, from that form as well. So obviously, that can only take you so far. And I will say that in-person mentors is probably your best bet to really speeding up the trajectory of your business, things of that sort, because they can be kind of hands-on and help. But it's not just limited to the physical in-person man or woman. It can be, found through content, books, things of that sort.
Yeah. And so also too, it's kind of coming to mind is what might scare a lot of people away is they might, brainwash themselves into thinking, well, who really wants to pour into me? Have you found that like when you ask people out to lunch just to like interview them or ask questions, are they more, likely to do that or not?
Yeah. A lot more willing than what you think.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. So much more willing. There are people out there that want to pour into younger people, especially if you're showing you're hungry. And it doesn't take much to show you're hungry. I've asked students to lunch, I couldn't say how many times, and they're so willing to go out and just answer any or all of my questions.
And here's something on that point. And we've talked about this a little bit of people love to talk about themselves and talk about their accomplishments, right? So if you can take people to lunch and obviously you can learn from those accomplishments, but ask good questions pointed towards them and their successes, people will talk all day long.
I'll say that, being from, managing that country club for a few years, like the quickest way to get to people is to ask them about themselves and then you learning how to shut up. And
exactly.
You can ask a question and that person can go for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
And then they feel like they leave the conversation so full because you made them feel good.
And I feel like
and that's value.
It is value. And I feel like so few people do that because it's just like hardwired into the majority of our brains to want to talk about us, right? And I mean, not to be pessimistic about it, but I can't tell you how many conversations I have where I'm constantly asking about their life, about, progress, about things that they got going on. And they never once ask a single question about myself. So not being pessimistic, but so few people do that it kind of sets the bar on the ground. So if you can learn to do that, you set yourself apart immediately. Right?
Yeah. Once again, though, that is like an emotional maturity and it's not just a habit that you're going to pick up, but it is very much, you have to be self-aware at all times to be able to, to zoom out, take yourself out of the picture and make those other people feel good by asking those questions.
Exactly. And kind of going back to my previous conversation about characteristics being skills that are learned. I think that's being able to ask people questions about themselves is a charismatic characteristic, right? So breaking that down into a skill of, I just know, hey, if I want to be more charismatic or appear to be more charismatic, let me just learn to ask people a little bit more about themselves. Because like you said, they leave with their cup full because you just asked them from A to Z about everything that's going on, and they love that, right? So kind of tying that back into that skill of, I think being charismatic is something that people would obviously love to be thought of as. And I think that could be a skill that's learned.
Yeah, I will tell you, it's a struggle, like coming from somebody who I probably take out, a person a month out to lunch.
Oh, you're very good about that.
Yeah. So it's, and I love it. And I'll take my notebook. I'll have questions ready. One thing you have to do that I've struggled with even to this day is humbling myself or being selfless, thinking of yourself less. It's literally in the name. But like coming into real estate, thought I knew everything, thought I was going to be a hot shot, took some realtors out to lunch, started to interview them. And it's like, dude, humble yourself. You don't know everything, and those mentors aren't going to want to see some, hot shot, cocky guy. They want to see that you are humble and that you're willing to learn, that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
So humbling yourself is kind of is a skill too. Once again, it's a part of that zooming out part where it's like, you gotta look at something greater.
Yeah.
So, mentorship, huge. Me and Zach are big on mentorship.
Big. Huge.
And that very much relates to the value of people and relationships. A stat here. 75% of executives in the business realm credit their success to mentors.
That's a lot, but that does not surprise me.
No.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Because I feel like the top performers understand this principle, right? So to be an executive, you have to kind of be at the pinnacle of whatever profession that you're in. And to be at the top, I think that this is a vital understanding that you need to possess. So that 75%, that seems like a lot, but that does not surprise me.
Yeah. That's huge, man. So literally 3/4 of executives, they credit their success to other mentors. So if that doesn't show you the value of mentorship, I don't know what does. And so this is kind of like our motivation, inspiration, like, hey, seek mentorship. Yes, it takes guts,
Mm-hmm.
And
one thing that you said was tying back into it. You kind of just have to take action on it, and kind of flowing back into our last episode, the quote of fear is like an ocean. It's a mile wide, but like an inch deep. And asking somebody to be your mentor seems incredibly intimidating, or can seem very intimidating. But when you do it, you realize, oh man, like that wasn't nearly as difficult as what I thought it was. And obviously, and that's not to say that you're not going to run across some difficult people that tell you to go kick rocks, right?
Yeah, you might leave a lunch totally unmotivated. Or it's not the right mentor.
Or even somebody's going to, you ask them to lunch and they tell you to go pound sand.
Yeah.
That stuff happens. But I don't know if this is kind of exaggerated, but I would say the majority of these people, if you humble yourself, are more than willing to sit down and have a conversation with you. I would say the majority.
Yeah. And looking on the opposite end of that, I'm not saying that I'm a mentor by any means, but I'm still very young, wet behind the ears as far as like real estate goes and just life, right? We're both pretty young, but I have had younger people, because I've coached basketball and stuff like that. I've had younger people like want to, take a ride along with me on my day to day and ask me about real estate and faith and life. I've had guys, talk to me about Christ and stuff like that. And also on the mentor side of things. When I get to when people ask me out to lunch and I get to talk real estate and that stuff, for me, it makes me feel amazing that somebody would even think of me. Like I went home and talked to Steph one time. Like, this guy asked me out to lunch because he wanted to ask me questions, about what I do. And I'm like, I don't know why he's asking me. Like, I'm not a hot shot, yet, but it was super cool. It felt really good. And so on a mentor side of things, like, dude, don't be scared to ask somebody out to lunch. Like, you're probably making them feel really good about themselves just by asking.
It probably, likely, I know probably for you, it validates what you're doing, because I feel like a lot of times, no matter what level of success that we reach, a lot of us have imposter syndrome. And I feel like by people asking you to lunch to pick your brain about something almost validates them in a way of like, oh, like maybe I do have something to offer.
I don't care how old you are or who you are or what your status is. Men need validation.
Absolutely.
Plain and simple. Men need validation. They seek it in everything they do. That's why we work so hard.
And it doesn't matter if you have $100 million company, a $500 million company,
exactly.
$1 billion company. Like, to some level, there's always the feeling of like not good enough.
Yeah. You you want to be seen and you want people to like what they see.
Yeah.
And like when I get asked out to lunch, I'm like, holy crap, like hiring the Z&T agency really did do it for me. Like I do,
Yeah.
Granted, what we put on socials is like actually the real deal. I'm not just making myself look busy, but
Absolutely.
it's like, so it's super cool. So like on the flip side, I'm just getting to the point where people are starting to ask me questions.
Mm-hmm.
It feels really good.
Well, from the outside looking in, Spencer, like, dude, you're young, but you've accomplished a lot in your short stint. I say short stint in your career. Like, you're crushing it.
You know why? Mentorship. I'm serious, dude. I've been ever since I was 19 at that country club. All I wanted to do was be around older people, wiser people. Yes, I partied and I did that stuff, but I was in the workforce. And so I was constantly around older people. And Steph always makes the joke that, I'm 26 going on 50. Seriously. But it's like, when I found myself hanging around older people and they're just pouring into me, like I said, now I'm 26 and I feel like I've advanced quickly. People are always like, with both you and I, people are impressed at what we're doing with at our age.
Yeah.
It is because of mentorship, and we have sought wisdom. We have learned to listen.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're executives, but we can attribute our success to other mentors.
And that's also the cool thing about this channel is by no means are we there yet. Yeah. We have not arrived. Honestly, we're at the very beginning of our journey. We have a long ways to go. But that's the cool thing about this is, we're not posing here acting like we know everything and trying to teach you that. More so, this whole podcast is just kind of going to be follow along on the journey, entrepreneurship
We're
journey.
Getting better with you guys.
Right. Of Zach and Spencer. So like the viewers, the listeners, they get to see us like kind of, not all the way at the bottom because we talked about, we've had some rough beginnings, right?
Yeah.
But like we're stable now, but we're still at the bottom. Like we're only ascending. And so, this is an opportunity for all the viewers to be able to follow along on the journey that we call business and life, and trying to figure it out and sharing. I want this to be authentic. Like I want us to talk about, man, like I'm having a rough day. Like I had this happen, this happened. Like it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Like I don't have it all figured out. Right. And then be able to have the authenticity to share that. And I think that we're going to. Yeah. So that's super exciting. We just
like it better on this side because we learn by leading.
Yeah.
It forces us to get better, which is, ultimately, plays into mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, seriously, wherever you're at, whatever season of life you're in, if we're talking to super successful people out there right now, if you're listening, just getting started, or if it's not even in business, like we said, if it's in faith, and you want to learn more, seek mentorship wherever you're at. Learn to zoom out, evaluate who shares your same morals, moral compass or whatever it is.
Oh, you're all good, man. Hey, no, this is funny. This is Spencer has an alarm set to make sure that he posts on stories. Because with the Z&T agency, we've been on him about content, and we're like, man, you got to get more involved with stories. So, hey, here's the reality.
There's the authenticity.
Honestly, dude, I love it because, dude, I saw on your face you just freak out.
I was like, dude, what?
Dude, when that went off, and I was like, perfect example.
Way to play it off, Zach.
The perfect example of being authentic, right?
We don't edit anything out.
Oh yeah, they're going to hear this. They're going to hear.
Speaking of wisdom, I'm not good at social media, and so that's why I seek wisdom in Zach to teach me what to do.
Hey, we're trying, man. But hey, Spencer, you were saying something.
Yeah.
And I think that it transitioned and ties in so well because you were talking about Moraine. Are you still laughing about the alarm?
I'm laughing at you.
Oh, man. Oh, you got me thrown off now, man. No, I'm just kidding. All good. You were talking about Moraine, right? And we were talking about that for mentorship. But, man, that also, what a better network for you. You know what I mean? And correct me if I'm wrong, but now in real estate, your real estate business, you're tapping into some of the network that you built at Moraine, which is some of the most affluent individuals in the Dayton area for your real estate business.
Yeah. Seriously, we'll kick it. We'll kick it off right there with this amazing stat too. I think this really plays into that. It's like 80% of professionals find networking essential to their career success. So, I mean, I could tell you being in real estate, and you could tell me too. I mean, we're business owners. We have to fight for our income, so 100% the best leads, the best business that I've ever had is the business in which I've just gone out to get,
Yeah, no. And I think that it's people that know, like, and trust you. Right?
Exactly right.
It's the people that know, like, and trust you. And I think that that's the value of a network, because the more expansive your network is, the more people that are in that sphere that you can talk to that know, like, and trust you and will convert on business.
Yeah.
And I'm not, okay. I want to make a quick point. I'm not saying that, the whole reason for a network is for business purposes at all.
It needs to be organic.
It has to be organic, and like, it has to be genuine relationships too. You don't want to be, what can I get out of these people? Right. People will see right through that.
Yeah. It's like my Bible study on Wednesday mornings. It's like when I get done with each session, it's not like who wants to buy a house,
Right.
Who's looking to buy or sell.
Right.
No, but it's like, I've been in it 3 years, and it's like a guy finally is like, hey man, my cousin's moving into town. They need somebody.
Yeah.
It's networking is huge, joining groups. And it's not just, once again, it has to be organic. Just don't join groups just to join them to get leads and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Join groups to be sharpened by other people. Mm-hmm. Join groups to be around like-minded individuals who are going to make you better. Mentorship, right? And so networking is huge, though. I will tell you that. Just getting out, talking to people, being in front of faces goes a lot further in the business realm, and you get to meet other people, like-minded individuals. That's how we met. We just had coffee one day.
Yeah. Exactly. And for some people, they're like, well, Spencer, I don't really know of a group that I can join, things of that sort. Start one. Start one. And speaking of starting one, that's exactly what we're doing with DNA.
Yeah, dude. It's like,
tell them a little bit about that.
Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest? Be sure to use a Maxwell Group at NavX Realty, where your dream is our passion. The Maxwell Group takes pride in client relationships and experiences. We utilize our knowledge, our love for the industry, and our extensive network to handle your life's biggest investment. Call or text Spencer Maxwell at 937-572-5382.
Yeah. So I got motivated one day because I was like, you know what? I'm going to go find a BNI group. A BNI group's, I think it's like a national thing.
Yeah.
But it's like they go through study guides, they do, and they have industries in each group. Well, guess what? There's 4,000 realtors in Dayton. So I'm telling you, there's not a single realtor slot in any BNI group out there. So it's like me, the taking action person that I am. Yeah. I'm like, Zach, we're starting our own thing.
I love it.
Yeah. DNA, which is kind of a cool play on words, because it's in our DNA to do this, but also Dayton Networking Association, where we're just going to build a group. We're in the process of building it. We're building a group of like-minded individuals who really, are entrepreneurs, or they're in their niche. They're really not knowledgeable. We get to, make each other better through study, presentations, and other sort of stuff like that. So really, it's to help us grow and to help build a networking group for others.
Pause. Shameless plug. If you reside in the Dayton metropolitan area and you are a hungry entrepreneur and you're looking to get involved with other hungry entrepreneurs, hit us up. We'd love to talk about adding you to the
We'll get you into DNA. So yeah, and then I'm gonna do the same thing as BNI, where it's like, hey, only one realtor allowed, only one social media manager allowed. So that's kind of what we're doing, and so because I see the value in a good network, and so do you.
And for me, for so long, I would always hear the overly said cliche saying, "Your network is your net worth."
Yeah.
Right? I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're right. That's congratulations. You repeated the same thing that 25 million people have for 25 years." But man, that is really start to come to fruition for me and ring true in the past like year and a half, 2 years. And that's kind of kicking off the entrepreneurship journey of once I really started getting involved with other like-minded individuals, it's amazing the amount of opportunities that have just presented themselves through that network.
Well, it's just like Tuesday morning. This Tuesday morning, you called me when you were leaving your group. Well, I called you. You called me back after leaving your group. And you're like, yeah, dude, sorry. Like, I had 3 people wanting to talk to me about stuff.
Yeah.
But once again, that came organically. You joined a networking group. It's been a couple months since you've been in it.
Mm-hmm.
These people see you for who you are, which is a good, solid guy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, it's just really cool to see that, the value of networking. Like-minded individuals is kind of like a BNI group,
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, there's tons of value right there.
And for me personally, like I have seen an increase in my income from my network. I have seen it happen, play out right before me in my bank account.
Yeah.
My income has continuously increased the more people that I rub shoulders with. So it works.
Yeah. The value of people. Like, I'm once again getting back to it. Like, the most valuable lead I could ever get is coming from from a person who I trust. So like, you refer me a client, that's the best thing you could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best lead you'll ever get. A warm lead,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like the value of people, talking to other people. It starts with you being your best you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, if you have that expectation of other people, they're going to have that expectation of you. And so you can't expect to extract value out of them if you're not willing to give them value in return or even first, right? You have to, you can't just take.
Yeah.
You've got to give.
In success, people always say, success is very attractive.
Very.
And what I mean by that is, like, successful people are naturally gravitated towards other successful people. Success is very, very attractive. And so, if you make yourself successful, ultimately you get successful through other people. But as you become successful, you're going to be around more successful people. And then it just continues to snowball.
And it's going to open even more doors.
Exactly. So the value of networking, I mean, really, you can't even put a number on it. It's a snowball effect. And so all this kind of relates. So it's like mentorship, seek that, and then ultimately get into some networking, go out and build relationships. It has to be organic. And it has to come from the heart. Don't just talk to somebody and pour into them and ask about themselves with the intent of you talking about what you do just to make a sale.
Yeah.
Build a genuine organic relationship. That is where I have found my success personally.
Yeah. And I think also of be so intentional about it.
I was going to say intent.
You have to be intentional about it, because the people that you surround yourself with is, whether you like it or not, who you're going to become, and sets the trajectory or your ceiling for where you are in life. And so you have got to be so specific and intentional about who you're surrounding yourself with, right? To make sure that you are surrounding yourself with like-minded, good individuals. And another thing is, like, people that just genuinely want to see you succeed and you see them succeed, right? Because I feel like so many people, just human nature can get jealous. Like, hey, we're starting to make big moves and grow and expand and all that kind of stuff. And some people, they don't really like that because it makes them feel bad about themselves that they're not, taking action
Yeah.
and reaching those levels, right? So getting around people that genuinely have your best interest at mind. So for example, dude, for you, when I see you crush it, it gets me freaking pumped.
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Like there's no part
Maxwell Group's biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
Zach Heyer.
Woo. We need the little
the clap.
Yeah, hand clap. Yeah. No, but seriously, and I guess I'm not trying to toot my horn in that respect. I'm just like telling you how I genuinely feel about like when I see you just creating massive strides and success, and you just want to get around those people that have that kind of viewpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they'll either uplift you or pull you down. So you have got to be so intentional.
Well, that I'm very, very blessed, and not to brag about myself, but I see that we just kind of have a loyal following, like you see it, like on socials. Like we have such like a loyal. It's a small following, but it's a loyal following, and it's because I've just, something that I've learned through mentorship is. And something one of my real estate mentors always taught me was don't treat people like paychecks, treat them like people.
Yeah.
Or else your business is going to die. And so it's like from day one, I've just, rather than develop a sale, I've developed organic relationships with every lead, with every person, with every Bible study, everything. And ultimately that has just built like such a loyal following that makes me feel so good about myself, and that I actually physically see on like social media and stuff. And just like the outcry of support that I get, and it feels really good. But I also know it is it's a reward from the relationships that I've built and being able to pour into others and ask about other people. And you do the same thing. Mm-hmm. You do the same thing. You're really good at that as well, building those relationships. Yeah. Ultimately, that's how anybody's going to find success. Harvard did a study that I couldn't spit out the actual numbers, but they basically said in a couple of years, all sales is going to be relationships. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be any more cold calling because nobody takes calls anymore. It's going to be purely relationships. So if you're in sales, better humble yourself, think yourself less, and start developing the skill of learning to listen.
And dude, that ties in so well with one of our last points. If everything is transferring more towards like the relational aspect, you better make sure that you got a daggone good reputation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you're known as being slimy and taking advantage of people and only trying to squeeze out every little bit of value from them as you can, if that's what you're known for,
yeah,
good luck, buddy.
Well, that's, to circle back to episode 1, right, where we always say begin with the end in mind. You and I love talking about that clearly. It's like, dude, if rather than just turn a person into a sale, if you turn it into an organic relationship, think about how much more you'll get from that.
Absolutely.
That effect of how widespread that's going to become because you chose to do it the moral and ethical right way, which builds a good reputation, which will ultimately build your business rather than treating that person like a paycheck.
100%.
So think with the end in mind on that one.
For sure. And I also think like specifically for us, because we are Christians, we have an obligation to uphold a higher standard. So, things that are on the line of, could I do this? And is it legal? Yeah. Is it ethical? Probably not. Yeah. Could I make a lot of money if I did this? Probably. Sorry, can't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of like being able to have a bigger why than just trying to step on people to make your money. And for me, like I always try to seek out win-win situations
Mhm.
where we can all benefit and we can all eat. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's something that we do pretty well, of getting creative of businesses and things that we want to do, to where we're not competing against each other. We're complementary to one another and we're both benefiting. And I look to apply that in all situations. Because I mean, I've just been in some positions to where people are, stepping on other people to for the money grab. And I just,
Oh, you've been in some dog scenarios,
For sure.
business wise.
for sure, I have been. And it just doesn't resonate well with me. I like, of course, I want to accumulate great success, for sure. Who doesn't, right?
Mhm.
But I want to make sure that I'm doing it in the most honest and ethical way. And I think that that really plays into what you're known for and what your reputation is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your reputation is as good as gold. Like,
100%. 100%. I've talked more people out of buying a house than I have into buying a house. And that is just because of like my, if I sell you this house, I won't be able to sleep at night because I care so much about you.
and it shows that you have their best interests in mind versus the commission check.
Yeah. Which I'm like, talking people out of that stuff. I thought, oh, well, they're going to be mad at me. No, they respect me a lot more for that, for covering their backs, having their backs like that. So 100% reputation is worth more than gold. And that starts with you working on your best self, you being at your best so that you could be your best for others. How do you become your best? Seek mentorship, seek leadership, learn to listen, right?
Yep. Build a good network
Build a good network,
and uphold a good reputation.
uphold a great reputation.
So yeah, I mean, I think that that's been a great conversation for the day. As always, we love to leave you with a little point of value.
A little bit of God's word.
Go ahead, brother.
All right. So our scripture today, Proverbs 27:17. I love Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about seeking wisdom and mentorship, go to Proverbs.
Very practical.
Proverbs, iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. That ties our conversation today together. What do you think, Zach?
100%. It sure does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we just want to leave you with a little tidbit of encouragement. We want to make sure that you like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.
See you next week, everybody. Thank you.